Hello?
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 Hi.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi? Hello?
Hey.
Hey, hello?
Hey. Hi.
Hello? Welcome to Mid Power Monday. I'm Joe,
And I'm Shane.
where we bring you decks that will make your opponents go, whatever. Today we're going to explore a deck that will go down in the annals of mediocrity.
At a somewhat reasonable budget of around $150.
Up today, we're going to explore Anya the local garbage dump and its awful, horrendous, trash-filled landscape of despair.
Now, again, to clarify, when we say these decks are trash, we're pretty much just kind of joking around. At least a little.
I don't know, man. This is truly a masterclass in hopelessness. But we're excited to share this burden of knowledge with you all. With that, let's get to the commander rundown. This deck came about from my desire to find a commander that would focus on discard. In the past, I'd looked at a few other options.
Like Olivia mobilized for war, or Neheb the Worthy?
Yeah, except those are really bad.
Oh.
Terrible even. So none of those work, because I tried them, and they were genuinely terrible. Enter Anya, the landlady of the garbage pit.
For those that don't know, or don't remember, she was from the 2019 Commander decks.
She brings vegan burgers to the proverbial potluck of Commander, something no one except her will use. That's right, surprise! This is a madness deck, but not just any madness deck. This one is referred to lovingly in a loveless marriage type of way as turbo trash.
Now, Joe, I like this deck.
Yeah, just like those marriages, at one point they cared for each other.
Oh, but I care for it now. It's fun to play against.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, but it's terrible. Let's all get on the same page here.
Okay.
The commander makes the deck hum, and that means we need to abuse her like the cheap 3 mana floozy she parades as. Our goal is to get her out there ASAP and start binning our hand like we forgot it's garbage day and the truck is down the street.
And thankfully, she's got haste. Oh yeah, baby, that means we can throw shit away immediately. So, Joe, what the F are we even trying to do?
So Shane, that's a great question, and frankly 99% of the time I have no clue.
Why does this not surprise me?
Well, it's because 99% of the time I have no clue. But anyway, the other 1%, I'm playing this deck, and I know that I need to blast my hand into oblivion. We're being careful about how and where we discard, because we do need to do this in a manner that's beneficial for us without helping our mortal enemies slash best friend.
Hey, I'm one of those.
You sure are, buddy. Whatever. You know what? Fuck you.
You can
That's all.
just.
I don't even like you. That's what we're doing. I don't like you. Shut up. Stop laughing at me. Specifically, this means that wheels of any sort are a no-go. Optimally, we'd like to have their graves empty while ours looks like an irresponsible child's fish tank. Additionally, we're trying to generate value for our trash.
It's pretty much recycling without the downside of saving the world.
Right you are, buddy. We have many cards that will give us additional damage, value, hopes and dreams, and draw that you won't see in too many decks. As they say, one man's trash is another man's desperate plea for help. The general idea for winning is to selectively carve through your deck with madness cards to get to the power combo pieces. To be clear, I'm not talking about infinite combos.
Generally, we shy away from infinite combos in our decks.
That's right, I don't particularly care for them because I'm not a great big scumbag. However, with these combos that I'm talking about, I of course refer to throwing away half your deck to draw into combos that do upwards of 20 damage. Talk about value.
Careful, Joe, careful. You might even kill someone with that.
Well, there's the dream. One day I'll live it. So here's the deal. We're looking for a living end or equivalent that we can cheat out quick and cheap. You see all those vanilla creatures in this list? Those bad boys are your win con.
Wait a second, Joe. Are you telling me that this deck relies on creatures in an Anja Falkenrath deck?
I am, and it's not some stupid garbage World Gorger combo.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, tell me about it. These vanilla creatures have the added benefit of never becoming the threat.
Unless I'm playing the deck, and then as soon as I sit at the table, I'm immediately targeted for no reason, even if I don't have a board presence.
Well, see example 1 in our first episode, because that's the reason you're targeted all the time.
It's true, I'm a degenerate.
Yeah, you're the scum of the earth. Anyway, when talking about these vanilla quote-unquote threats, what are they going to do? Remove your 3/2 do-nothing? Idiots. You get to call them that to their faces with this deck. It's completely legal. Piles?
Piles.
Piles? Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles? Piles? Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles?
Piles? Piles.
Hey Joe,
Yeah,
what's cool about Magic?
I don't know. I mean, not friends, because I don't have any of those.
Oh, is it not playing your cards on curve?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of cool things about Magic, but that's not it. Those aren't the things.
Oh, well, okay. I'm glad you're not concerned about that at all because let's look at the ramp for this deck and how little of it there is in Rakdos. So we've got this nice handful of cards here. Your standard ramp: Soul Ring, Rakdos Signet, Solemn Simulacrum, Wayfarer's Bauble, and Commander's Sphere. All great cards. I would say the best card in this for this particular deck is Commander's Sphere because it could get your engine going. You could have it out, you play it, you get an extra mana for whatever else you need mana for that turn. But you can also sacrifice it to draw a card, which could get you into the madness cards you need to pop off.
Yeah, it's kind of like 2 mana delayed cycling. Not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool.
So the next pile that we're going to is called F That Thing in Particular. What you're going to see here is that a lot of these are very atypical removal spells, but they do an equally good job of removing a whole mess of crap. My favorite out of this bunch is actually Voldaren Pariah, just because it is so integral to making sure you can sacrifice your own creatures and potentially getting them back immediately with your combo pieces that you're going to use later. It's a really neat way to abuse your own board, put it in the garbage, and then get it immediately back out. There's a few others in here that are worth noting. Biting Rain is probably the only real board wipe that we have in here. There's one other creature that is a pseudo board wipe, but he's really hard to activate and get on board and then immediately wipe the board. Biting Rain's as close as you're going to get in this one.
The next pile of cards we're going to talk about is One Man's Trash. And guess what? All these cards are trash. So there's about 30 cards in this section. I'm only going to show a handful of them on the screen. One of the ones we want to talk about, though, is Igneous Pouncer, because he's pretty special. He's way overcosted, 4 and a black and a red to play a 5/1 haste elemental creature. That's garbage. It's a common card. It's garbage. It's trash. Literally, trash is in the name of the pile, and he belongs in it. But what's good about this card is it has Swamp Cycling and Mountain Cycling. So these two abilities will help make sure that you don't miss your land drops, because you don't need a whole lot of land drops in this deck. You don't need real ramp all the time, but sometimes you do need particular colors, and this can help mana fix you if you need a land drop of a particular color. Another card I want to mention is Brain Gorgers. Now this card is mega trash. You can pay 3 and a black, and then when you play Brain Gorgers, any player may sacrifice a creature. If that player does, they counter Brain Gorgers. For a 4/2 zombie creature, so good. So good. But he has madness on him, which is why he's in the deck, so Anya can discard him and then untap and then continue to discard other trash. So there we go.
I think at the top you should mention everything in this pile has cycling or madness.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot to mention that. Hold on. Everything in this pile has cycling or madness to make it less trash than it is. But don't worry, it's still trash.
Okay.
There we go. I'll cut that line in somewhere.
Okay. Hang on, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. You said the one man's trash. I'm going to say, is another man's terrible win con. What we have here is a very small, concise, and compact combo that is going to take everything that you've put in the graveyard and bring it back out, hopefully with haste, which we'll get to later, and immediately swing in for lethal damage on probably nobody, because it's about 20 damage total. But it's fun as hell, so we got that going for us. The specific card here that makes this engine go is called Living End. It is a sorcery, and it's black. It costs nothing because it only has a suspend cost on it. Each player removes all creature cards in his or her graveyard from the game, sacrifices creatures he controls, and then flips them, essentially. Now, the reason this card is so important is that it does not have a mana cost, which means that it's effectively 0 when we're using other cards like Electro Dominance, which is the best card to cast with it. It's an instant speed for 2 red and an X. It deals X damage to any target, and you can cast a card with CMC X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Well, guess what? Living End is 0, so you can pay 2 red, instant speed, and Living End the entire board. This is fantastic for you because you should have 10 to 20 creatures in your graveyard that you're immediately bringing back with haste to go and beat face. Again, upwards of potentially 15 to 20 damage. I'm talking mega pain train.
Bring them on back. So these cards are cards that you want to bring back with the combo Joe just talked about. So when you cast Living End or Living Death, you want to make sure you have Dragonlord Kolgan or Urbrask the Hidden in your graveyard. When you cast those spells, it'll cause them to come back, give all your creatures haste, so you can slap that guy. I'm going to say guy. It's going to be one person. You're going to hit one guy for 20 damage with this. Like, let's not kid ourselves. You might hit one other guy for, 6, the damage you get from Dragonlord Kolgan. And that's about it.
It's such a bad combo. How do I win with this deck? Trash to cast. This is a very small part of the deck. It's essentially an extension of one man's trash, just because it's the only pieces that potentially are worth casting. They all have madness, and the only reason I would ever cast Call to the Netherworld is because it costs nothing. This is essentially madness, get another madness creature back. Muckdrub is really great for avoidance for one of your creatures, and Anya's Ravager is really great if you've run yourself out of cards and need to draw some more. Any one of these are not ones that you'll want to start Madness discarding early. You'll want to save them until the last moment. Everything else you can do at whatever speed you really want to, but these I would save until the end or the end step of the previous turn to make sure that you're casting it at an optimal time, or at least discarding it at an optimal time for you.
This pile is what we like to call Value Town. And this is how we get value out of our trash cards that are in this deck. As you notice, there might be a little bit of trash in here, but that's okay. Our best card from this section is Shadow of the Grave. For 1 and a black, you can return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn, essentially doubling the amount of madness cards that you can throw away in one turn.
Shane, since you're having trouble grasping the concept of this card, I want to point out Tortured Existence from this pile as well. It's 1 black for an enchantment. Once that enchantment's on the battlefield, you can pay 1 black, choose and discard a creature card, and return any target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This essentially allows you to swap the spots of a madness card in your graveyard with a non-madness creature card in your hand. So something like Dragonlord Kolaghan or Urbrask the Hidden that we talked about earlier that needs to get to your graveyard, you can pay 1 black to get that in the graveyard, get another madness creature out without tapping your commander. This will allow you to tap your commander for the madness card and keep carving through your deck real fast.
Wow, thanks for schooling me on that, Joe. Now, how are we going to get enough black mana to do this effectively?
Great question, Shane. Let's not talk about it and talk about Payday instead. In this pile, we have 2 really important cards that are my personal favorites. As a matter of fact, one of them is my all-time favorite Magic card, and that's Archfiend of Ifnir.
I hate this card.
What? Oh, you hate Archfiend of Ifnir? The greatest board wipe on a body ever?
I do.
Tell me, Shane, why do you hate it so?
Every time you play a deck that has this card in it, you're always turning it on. You're cycling shit, you're discarding stuff, and you're killing my creatures, and I hate it.
That gives me such joy in my loins. This is particularly potent in this deck. It's a 5/4 body with flying for 2 black and 3 generic that says whenever you cycle or discard a card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. It also has cycling 2 on it, but we're hoping not to use that unless we absolutely have to. You can see that this card in this deck, where you're consistently throwing stuff away, is essentially a board wipe every single turn on demand, and it's completely unavoidable. There's no getting around it. There's no hexproof that you can do, no indestructible. The best option that anyone has is to phase out with a Teferi's Protection. This will wreck boards, and I love it. The other important card to take out of this one is probably Faith of the Devoted. As you've seen here, and as Shane may or may not have pointed out, it's real hard to come across more than a few mana at a time. Faith of the Devoted is pretty cheap to cast, and its supplemental costs of 1 mana is relatively easy to activate. 1 black, 2 generic, for an enchantment that states whenever you cycle or discard a card, you can pay 1 generic mana. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is one of the backup win conditions, along with Psychosis Crawler and Glinthorn Buccaneer. It's a way to do damage that is not tied to your living end combo. This is probably the more reasonable expectation of how to win a game, is to slowly drain the table out and then finish them off with a living end combo. But having the ability to deal so much damage with that living end, I mean, just so much, you'll really get in there, take them to Pound Town, potentially 5-6 damage gets through. That's really the crux of this whole deck. So Shane, we've gone through all of our piles. We know what's in this bad boy. The biggest question remains, how do I play this Mound of Refuse? So let's start with this opening hand. Here's what you need to know. You need 3 land. That's it. It's really that easy. You should probably avoid getting any of your key combo pieces in your opener, because you'll draw into everything you need relatively quick. The best version of an opening hand also has some madness cards. Your hand is going to be a mix between a juicer and a trash compactor, and we need to squeeze all the value we can out of this bad boy. So, opening hands out of the way. Here's the thing. We're looking to get your commander out ASAP. With 3 land, that usually means turn 3 at the absolute latest.
And with haste, we can get that dumpster fire engine started immediately.
Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. However, if anyone else has a blind obedience type effect on the table, you're legally allowed to punch their face. I checked with the police, they said it's fine, and they're probably going to help.
Now, this is strange coming from Joe, because he's the notorious stacks player in my play group. He's a big trash man.
I don't like that insinuation, although it is mostly true. So the opening hand was righteous. Your commander's out. What now? Well, now we make sure that if a card has madness in the text, that it ends up in the graveyard.
Throw it in the trash.
If it's a creature, that's even better, because those are going to inevitably win us the game.
25% of the time.
Every time.
At best.
We're looking to get 10 plus creatures in the graveyard before we activate Living End and become the kings and queens of Trash Mountain. So we've gone through the build-up, and our pants are tight as all get out. Now it's time to bust a move.
Unless someone exiled your graveyard, or counters your spell, or destroyed your commander repeatedly.
Alright, strengths and weaknesses. What this deck really excels at is quickly seeing all of your deck. Now the problem with that is all of your deck's really bad, aside from a few cards. So you have to see it every single time. But it'll get you there quicker than any other deck that I know of, because you will be throwing stuff in the bin, you'll be drawing new cards, and you'll have answers for most of the stuff at this table. The best part about this combo is that it really comes out of nowhere too. Obviously people are going to see you building up to it, but you can do it with minimal resources available. Sometimes as little as 2 mana and at instant speed. So you can build up your board immediately, destroy everyone else's, and then really get in there for a bunch of damage real quick.
So Joe, you talked about the strengths, but let's look at the weaknesses for this. One of the big things is removal for Anya, of course. So if you're going to discard a card and somebody instant speed removes Anya, stops you dead in your tracks. Somebody continuously removes Anya before you can actually get your engine going, done. But also, Joe, let me tell you about this one little card, one weird trick. Anya players hate it. Cursed Totem. Mic drop.
Oh, I hate that card so much.
So, I've got Cursed Totem pulled up on the screen here. As you can see, it is an artifact that costs 2 generic, and it says players can't play activated abilities from creatures.
If you're playing this, as the list states, if that card hits the battlefield, you will die. That's all there is to it. You have to play some politics, or get someone else to remove it for you. Which leads into the next section of what kind of politics you should use to play around these weaknesses specifically. So, the best is obviously to point your deck somewhere else. You're not going to have enough damage when you use a Living End combo to kill everybody. So, you could potentially say, I'm not going to kill you, but I'll kill all these other chumps because I don't like them. And I don't like you either, but I like you a little bit more than everyone else. So, maybe they'll blow up a Cursed Totem for you, which would be great. Maybe they'll stop removing your commander for the 5th time, Josh. It's just really hard to play around some of these weaknesses, but it is fun to play. So if you can politic with those people to get around those problems, it is a true joy to play this deck.
It's also really cool to watch this deck pop off. I've played against it a handful of times, and I've seen Joe flip through his deck 30, 40 cards at a time sometimes, and just get to something he needs, and just absolutely, completely deal 5 damage to somebody.
such a dick, but it's so true. All right, Shane. Now I need you to tell me, why am I an idiot for playing this deck?
Well, Joe, the biggest reason you're an idiot for playing this deck is it's full of trash. Like, literally, the majority of the cards are just garbage. Like, these things should be thrown in a real physical trash can. Like, this is bottom of the barrel trash cards you're playing. We talked about one earlier, a very fantastic card. Now, that card is called Brain Gorgers, but there's other bangers in here, like Asylum Visitor, that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Now, I don't know if you've ever played Commander, but most of the time people are drawing cards, and unless you're specifically playing a deck that makes them discard all of their cards, this effect is not going to happen very often. Also, it's tied to a creature that you would never tutor for. It's just a 3/1. Just trash. It's garbage. The other reason this is trash, and you're an idiot for playing this deck, is the land base. Like, why? Why does this deck cost $162.92? It's all lands. $85 of this is lands, Joe. Everything else in the deck sucks.
I'm hurt on a deep and emotional level from this.
Good. And you should be, because you do all this work to throw your trash in the garbage, and then to rummage through it a little bit, and then maybe pull out some of it if you get your combo to work, and then you deal 7 damage. Oh, okay. How'd you like that?
It was a little hurtful, but that's okay. All right, Shane, let's close this sucker out. Here's the deck cost. It is $162.92 as constructed at time of recording. However, you may have hurt my feelings when mentioning this earlier, but the lands are a significant portion of this. You do not need to spend real money on this deck. You can cut the cost by about 50% by trimming out the very expensive lands. Frankly, I'm an idiot for putting them in there, but I am okay with that because it makes the life a little bit more fun for me. Now, Shane, tell the listeners, where can they find that deck list?
Joe, I'm glad you asked this, because we have an account on Moxfield that has all the decks that we're going to talk about on Mid-Power Mondays listed on it, and they have the categories that we go through known as piles. You can find that in the link in the description below, or if you follow us on Moxfield, the decks will become public as we do the episodes.
Ooh, saucy. I can't wait to go look at my own deck again.
Yeah, me too. I love looking at my own decks.
So, as the name suggests, look out for new Mid-Power Mondays every Monday. All Mondays, some Mondays, occasional Mondays.
Every Monday of the Monday with Mondays on the side.
Every Monday that has a video called Mid-Power Mondays. Look out for those Mondays.
Those are good Mondays. I like those.
Well, that's it for us here at Mid-Power Mondays.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed.
Bye.
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 Bye.